What's up, everybody? We're on a podcast now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to give you all my spoiler cast for Ghost of Yotei. This is a great opportunity, and I like doing these videos just to kind of sit back, relax, and go over what's in my head, the spoiler moments of this game that obviously I couldn't get to in the review. So, of course, let me know what you think in the comments, any spoiler-like thoughts you want to talk about. And, there's quite a few. I mean, the game is based off revenge and eliminating the Yotei 6, right? But in that journey, you get a couple things. I would say, I think I said in my review, originally it felt like maybe there was like 3 twists in the game, but maybe there was more than that, right? Like Jubei, I think, being alive, that's probably one. The Kitsune actually being, an ally, and then turning out that, well, I guess there's more than one, but, one kind of passed to the other. That's 2. And then maybe, I guess, just the general ending, maybe her not killing the spider, right, would kind of be twist 3, and then Lord Saito pulling the switcheroo and going back kind of where it all started would maybe be twist 4. Jubei dying would be twist 5. Maybe around 5, right? 5 kind of really impactful things like that. I mean, overall, like I said in the review, I did really like it. I will say there's a few things story-wise that kind of, it got me like, I wish they would have put a little bit more effort into it. And let me give you some specifics, because that's kind of what we're here for. So the one thing that really ticked me off, and you guys can let me know if you felt the same way, when they capture the spider, right, and they do this trap, and they say, okay, we're going to execute you, and we're going to spread across the whole land, right, that this is your execution day, and we're trying to lure the dragon in, and when that happens, we're going to take both of you out, right? That was the plan. And that's an okay plan. Like, I think I could buy somebody would come up with that plan. But the way they literally left the front door open, I think, was one of the stupidest things. And I mean, okay, like, all jokes aside, that would be, I think, a legit criticism I have on the story, where that was like such a, whether it was cliche or it didn't feel fulfilling, because something's going to go wrong, right? Like, you still have 2 more to go. You have the spider captured, but, you got Lord Saito, and then you got the dragon, and it's like, okay, well, you expect the brother to come in, but I guess you're not expecting Lord Saito, so okay, cool. But, like, when they were on the beach, and they were looking through the spyglass, and it's like, oh, those boats seem empty, right? I was like, all right, but, like, how are they gonna surprise you? Like, you're walking through the castle, and you hear, okay, all these, the group, right? Like, the soldiers, you're hearing them say, like, okay, well, we're going to hide here, and, like, when we spring the trap, we'll kind of pop out, right? So it's like they're very prepared. Like, they don't want the soldiers to be seen, and they're laying this trap. But, like, the execution takes place, like, just on the outskirt of the castle. They weren't watching the front door. Like, they knew that the only attack method possible was going to be through, the ocean. That was the only possible way they were going to get attacked. So that was just, I mean, like, you needed, I think, one final twist. I guess technically there was more, but you needed something, I guess, to go wrong, because things were going so well, right? You capture him, and you have him locked up, but you need the other one, and the other one escaped you a little bit before that. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time just on, but I mean, that's kind of what we're here for, though, is to kind of go in depth in these scenes. I don't know, that one in particular, when they're looking at the boats, and they're like, something's wrong, Atsu, and it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, if it's a fake attack, like, you're in a wall, you're in a castle, so it'd be pretty hard for you to lose that castle. And then it's like, oh, well, no, they sent this giant army at the front door that for some reason, and then everybody's freaking out, right? Everybody's screaming, oh my God, it's a decoy, they're attacking from the front. Oh, we left the castle unguarded. What do you mean you left the castle unguarded? It's your only base of operation. How could you leave it unguarded? So that was kind of ridiculous. The more I think about it, the more I think that was actually pretty stupid. But okay, that was one major moment. I would say, I mean, what they did actually with the spider and dragon, I actually really, really liked. They played around, and I would have maybe liked them to kind of let it breathe a little bit more, because you have the spider when you're chasing him, right? After he escapes, or after they, bury the brother, and then Atsu goes to find him, right? And so you're chasing him, and he's shooting you from long range. I thought actually that was a really, really cool mission, kind of broke up the mission structure quite a bit. But, as you're running, he's saying, like, like why am I going to help you find your brother when you just killed my brother? And it's like, okay, touche, good point. Like I don't think you actually should help Atsu in this situation. And then like 5 minutes later, after they fight, look, I like the symbolicness, if that's the word. Like I like how symbolic there was a couple moments in this game, where Atsu crosses off a name on the list and she didn't actually do the actual like elimination part, but in her mind, right? It's about the journey she took. And that's something that I think the game is actually kind of underrated on, because I still don't think she's as good as Jin, but this journey of all I care about is revenge, and look where revenge got me in a couple of these different situations, right? Like revenge kind of backfired a few times. You think about even with like the Kitsune, like when she forgives the former Kitsune, right? She crosses the name off, and it's like, oh, that is super cool. And I think at the time that's the first time she does that, right, in terms of the chronological story, because it's like, okay, it's at that point it's not about killing the current one. Technically, the current Kitsune did not do anything to her family. He did not participate in that. It was her that participated, and obviously she gets branded, and that was a great arc. Or Yuki, I think is how you say her name. She was great, and I love I hope I said that name right though. But I love that journey that those two characters went on. She's awesome. The fact that you have to fight her and then kind of like work through that mentally, and again that mental state, right? Crossing the name off, because it's like, well, I'm forgiving her, and she was the Yotei 6. The current one, yeah, you kind of need to take that person out too, but I'm mad at you, and I need to get through that, and then I'm not going to take you out, and I haven't taken the current one out yet, but I'm going to cross your name off anyway. I really like that. And then she does the same thing with the spider, right? She does like a fake slash, and maybe like that's in her head, like, okay, I'm done, right? I'm going to let you go, and by letting you go, I'm going to cross your name off the list, because that's what, that's kind of what the list is for, is the elimination, but it also can be the elimination, from her head. And I even like, fighting Lord Saito, right? He gets caught off guard, which I really love, because, he constantly is comparing these two. And I think he does that as like almost a coping mechanism to make himself feel better. And I like that. Lord Saito, I think, had more to give that he didn't give. But every scene he was in, I thought was kind of excellent. Letting Kiku go was honestly pretty cliche, and you kind of knew it was coming, but did show that kind of like noble side. It's kind of what you would expect from him. Like I knew he's not gonna like stab her or shoot her in the back, as she's running to these characters. So, but even with him, right? So he's like talking to her, and then when she drops the name in the flame, or she's burning it and saying, and again, like that idea of letting go, like, okay, it's not about this anymore. You can see he's like shaken, and I think it's a very underrated scene. I mean, that entire ending actually is very, very powerful, but that was a great, just in his facial expression, because it's like, okay, he's even seeing now, he's comparing them, he thinks they're very much alike, and so focused on revenge and not being able to let go. Only Atsu actually is able to let go now, and that's a huge character growth that she is able to do, throughout the entire game. I want to just hit on Jubei as well. I mean, like seeing the family and what happened to them, man, they had a tough 24-hour period. I think it was such an incredible, and they do it rather early, the whole flashback where she leads Saito to, the parents, and that's a dark scene. That's a very tense scene that I really loved, and also, you kind of get scared, for the family, and then to find out, what happens. I mean, you see what happens really to each of those members. Funny enough, like Atsu, she just gets stabbed to a burning tree, and it's not like, oh, well, I guess I did just say like that's all that happens to her, right? It's not that big of a deal. Just walk it off. I mean, they each get quite painful like endings to that night. Jubei though really gets the short end of the stick. He gets freaking shot off a cliff by, I forget if it was spider or dragon, but I was saying, I think to a friend, where it's like, well, Atsu just gets stabbed in like the shoulder blade, and that, that obviously everybody thought that she was dead, so they did think that was kind of like the kill shot, but you literally shot just like a boy, point blank with a pistol, and he falls off a cliff. I laugh, but I mean, it's actually quite grim and depressing. He should have been gone. In fact, I actually very much can respect him for fighting back because, man, the parents both died, but of the two, Atsu and Jubei, he really got the short end of the stick in terms of the punishment, that night. Seeing the mom and seeing that whole arc, and again, that kind of tied to the Kitsune, and they all have it. You think about the Oni. That's what I think the game did a really nice job, even though it was kind of broken up where you could do these things in the order generally that you wanted to, except for that final act, right? Or final, whatever you want to say, like Spider, Dragon, Lord Saito. That had to be at the end for just all of the reasons that it did. But all of the other ones, they're tied to something. So like the Oni was tied to Jubei, and you get that reconnection between the two, which that one I did not see coming. The Kitsune, I kind of thought maybe she was connected in some way, and then obviously the flashback confirmed it. But everybody kind of had their own twist and had time to kind of breathe, right? And like, okay, you kind of get to really flesh these people out. Really, the only one that didn't is the snake, I guess, in the very beginning. Like, he's just a drunk fool. He just goes around, kind of does what he wants, and he's kind of the easy first target. It's actually kind of surprising he made it up till that point, And I guess maybe Atsu is the only one hunting them, but the rest of them, and even him, he's really, but the snake was very cool, right? But kind of just the opening, like, okay, let's show you what we got, a sucker punch very early on in the game. But I thought, the fights against all of them were awesome. I think the individual missions where they really go in depth with whether it's the specific Yotei 6 or then also, whoever your partner kind of is at that time, I thought was honestly really, really good. I guess, in terms of one of those things I said, I think you could call some of these twists. So towards the very end, when the two are captured, right? And I believe Jubei tells Lord Saito something like the tree's alive, because he talks about like the destroyed tree right at their house. And he said, oh, like the tree came back to life, like it's even growing. When he said that, I thought, okay, Kiku's there, right? So that's kind of separate, but Kiku's there, and he just told Lord Saito that, the tree's alive. So, he kind of brushes it off, and I think he makes some sort of like jab at Jubei at the time. But I thought, oh, that was the giveaway that, well, he's been back to that house. So something at that house must mean something to him in Lord Saito's mind, right? So that twist where, Atsu frees the two of them, and I thought that was epic and large scale, right? But then when you find out, oh, Lord Saito went back to, your home, kind of ending it where it all began, that, to me, there's urgency, right? Because it's like, oh, dear God, like he's going to freaking light it on fire again, or Kiku's there and all that stuff. But, beyond even that is, okay, well, I kind of knew that it was going to end there, especially after Jubei said it. Speaking of Kiku, by the way, just to kind of go a little bit more in depth with that was again, maybe a little bit underrated, kind of like secondary plot that was being played around with the game. Look, I guess what I'm trying to get at, okay? For a good amount of the game, and even leading into the game, like, it's just revenge, right? Atsu is about revenge. And I've already talked a little bit about, I do like that character growth in her, that by really 2/3 of the way in, she really has to reconsider, like, is revenge. And she does it really when the castle is falling and she chooses to go after the dragon, and she does kill him, right? But she chooses revenge over saving the castle and saving Kiku, right? That was the choice she made. And that's really after that where she had to evaluate, and she had to go through this personal growth of, is it, and I felt for her, like when she was looking at the dragon, and I think she said, I can't, right? Where he's like, come with me, and she says, I can't. It's like in that moment, even as a player, you're kind of, I was split, at least for me, where it's like, ooh, I really want to take him out because he's one of the Yotei 6. That's kind of why we're here. But also, like, yeah, it's a more personal family thing that's going on, that she should probably drop this revenge thing. But you might only have one shot at this guy, and he's right there, and revenge is strong. If she sees Lord Saito, she's going to want to kill him, right? So I really resonated because I felt like there was a lot of internal conflict in that one scene with Atsu, where it's like, yeah, I kind of feel what she's going through. And I actually would have maybe picked the dragon at that point as well, and then maybe regretted my choices just like she did. But I think a big part of that Well, a big part of that, and then also this idea of, I mean, if you recall, like in the beginning of the game, actually for the first probably half the game, her plan is to just die at the end. You listen to some of what she says and even kind of throw away conversations with her brother and just kind of these characters as you're walking around with them. The goal really is to take out these Yotei 6 and die doing it, because she probably knows like doing it is going to take all that she's got, and maybe she won't even be able to do it, but if she can do it, maybe she'll just take herself out at the end. Like there's kind of a dark like prediction of what she thinks the future is going to be, right? And like reuniting with her brother, that's a big one. Learning forgiveness is enough. Like those two with those two characters, right? I think they do a really excellent job. That one is reuniting with family and learning how the two of you have grown up so differently, right? Like one has fallen into that honor, like very much almost like a Lord Shimura thing in Ghost of Tsushima, but then Atsu is more, well, she doesn't have like a code of any kind and she doesn't work well with others. I loved that dynamic really throughout the game. But okay, well, there's your family. You have something to live for already. Then you start to learn forgiveness. So maybe you don't even have to kill all the Yotei 6 anymore. And really, when she says like she broke into that castle at the end to rescue the two of them, and she tells Jubei like she's there for them, she's not there to kill Lord Saito, and he doesn't believe her. But it's like, well, we actually do believe her. And I mean, in that moment, I thought, I get why he doubts her. I think he even says like, well, I want to believe that, but I don't. And it's like, I get that, because she, to him, she's shown him no different, right? But to us as players, we've seen that growth, and we do know at that point she's ready. She's ready to end it, but end it in the way that she could probably just like run away with those two and Kiku, and you probably could believe that she could let it go with all of anybody who's left, which I guess is just Lord Saito at the time. And I love that growth, and I think that comes through forgiveness, comes through Jubei, but then it also comes through Kiku, right? Because then you find out about her mom died during childbirth, all that jazz, and really, she sees a lot of, I think, herself. And I think maybe Oyuki says it to her at some point in the game, where it's like, well, she's trying to impress you. And I think somebody says that she reminds them of her, because she's got the same kind of... Atsu is really cool as a kid. I don't love the voice acting of her as a kid, but I think, she's got this like charming, cute personality. Like she tries to push the boundaries and tries to do more than she probably should. But, she's got that kind of mind and that kind of energy. And Kiku's got all the same thing, right? Where it's like, well, you don't want her breaking into these places, but she does it anyway, and she puts herself into danger, but she has high confidence in herself. She very much resembles Atsu in a lot of ways, right? So number one, that's really cool to kind of see that lineage. But number two, she kind of needs a mother figure, and Atsu, in short time kind of starts to do that with her. And so there's that final piece to the puzzle, right? Like there's definitely something worth living for, and it's really just to have a family. Just like, let's escape this world and let's just move past it. And now I guess in order to do that, to jump to the very, very ending, like you have to lose Jubei, and that one was tough. That one, I like, because so much of the story still is kind of cliche, and we have seen many elements of it before. Even something like that, I will say, playing around, like taking out a character that you previously thought was dead, takes a little bit away from it. Okay, I think any movie, show, game, when a character, I think like even like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Like when you lose Barbossa once as a villain and then he dies as a hero, at the end of 5, there's a lot of emotion, but there probably isn't as much as there would have been, because we've actually done it before, like factually, right? So Jubei, it's like, in the beginning of the game, you think you're the only person that's alive. And to me as a player, I thought that too. I had always assumed that the 3 of them were just wiped out and Atsu was the sole survivor. So like meeting Jubei, it's like, okay. And I think they did a really good job, because, okay, you think he's dead and they kill him off at the end. So those are 2 times he dies, right? So you have to build something in between to get us to really care about him and Atsu's relationship, so we care again, and even more so when you kill him off. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I think at least the writing process probably has to go. And what I will say, I think they did exactly that. I think they did as good of a job as they could have done, knowing that everything was set in stone, like how it was. Like, you are playing around with a person that at the beginning of the game you think died, right? So he dies again, but this time he dies right in front of you. He actually saves you. Otherwise, Saito would have killed you right then. Right, you lost that fight. You kind of had that second wind, right? But Jubei saves you. He pays the price for it. He dies, and now you get to see, a fully grown Atsu kind of react to that situation. Kiku gets to react. It was definitely emotional. To me, it was easily the most emotional moment of that entire game. And I think as two games, it would probably be in like the top 2 or 3 emotional moments. I think the ending emotional weight between Jin and Lord Shimura at the end of Tsushima beats anything else. I really don't know how you get an emotionally impactful thing that's more than that, because that was just so emotionally heightened, at the time. But this was somewhat close. Like this one, it made me like choke a little bit, where it's like, dang it. Like here's the thing. When they were both captured, I thought one of them you were going to watch be killed when you go to rescue them. I thought story-wise you were going to be too late, and one of the two of them was going to die. And then you'd have to go back to Kiku just with one of them, and you'd have to see how that plays out. So I think I was close, because I was ready for one of those two to die, and then ultimately it was later than I thought, and it was Jubei. As soon as he comes back in to save you, it's like, okay, he's a goner, because Lord Saito is a really good fighter. Just beat you is easily going to be able to beat him, and he does, right? Almost like the Qui-Gon Jinn moment, and then you're kind of Obi-Wan to like a Darth Maul. It actually gave me a little bit of those vibes, but I loved it. I thought that ending, it didn't have as much emotional weight as Ghost of Tsushima, but stabbing Saito to the tree twice this time, though, which is very symbolic of what he did to you. Like I do love that. It was a bit fast. I know I saw a lot of people that said the ending was quick. I think when, again, they didn't know they left the front door open, they forgot. From that point on, a lot of stuff does happen pretty quick. The spider forgives you probably faster than he should, gives away his dad's main, base of operations just because he was kind of disowned, so he's probably very upset, but that happened quick. You do the rescue, you find out Saito goes back to your house, you go there, you finish it. It is pretty quick compared to, I think, a little bit more breathing room the game gives the rest of the game, but overall enjoyable. Like I think I said in the review, like although there are a lot of cliches, I think they try to do those twists with like Jubei and the Kitsune, and they do all that stuff. They try to throw in as many wrenches as possible to break up a very established, kind of trope in these things. And I think ultimately they did about as good as they could. I think they were just held back from the classic, like, this is just a revenge tale, and you can only have so many twists and turns in a revenge tale, and we've seen them all. Not to say that Ghost of Tsushima was it also wasn't the most inventive thing of all time, right? It was a samurai losing his code of honor and kind of becoming something else, but I think it played with Jin's internal. Atsu did too. That's something that I don't want to always just forget about, though. I don't think it's done as well, but both of these characters have that internal conflict. I think Atsu's is almost quieter, right? Again, in the beginning, she knows she's just going to off herself at the end of the game. Like, that's kind of the plan. And then without even really saying it as the game goes, you realize as a player, oh, this is changing. She starts to talk about a future that she doesn't really know what the future holds. And it's like, okay, well, that's better than what you said 5 hours ago, because 5 hours ago, you were going to take out these 6, and then you yourself was going to be done. Now, well, maybe now you don't know what the future is. Oh, now you have Kiku. Now there's something to live for. Now you got Jubei. Oh, now you're forgiving the Yotei 6, so maybe you don't even have to kill all of them and put yourself at risk. So she absolutely has a growth that I think is actually really good. It is just a little cliche, and it's I think it's done quieter than Jin's is, which is kind of more like right in your face, which I actually kind of preferred the way they did that. But overall, great story, great characters, and just, I wanted to do this video to kind of break it all down. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.